Hi Capricorn, welcome to your October 2019 Astro Update. It's Rena here. So this is a month, you're a cardinal sign, Capricorn. There's some cardinal energy definitely in October. And what that means is that it's energy that is about doing, about taking action. And although, because the sun is in Libra for most of the month, and, Mars goes into Libra, so that's really about action. It's going to be true for all of us, but because you are a cardinal sign, and because the other cardinal signs will affect you. I mean, it's going to form an angle, in the case of Libra, as a square, so it's a cardinal square angle. That is going to be, particularly where you are perhaps even in some cases irritated into action, because the square can be very frustrating. And you have this going on in your career sector. So I'll get to that in a sec, but I just wanted to kind of set the table here. So the sun is in your 10th house as the month begins. You roll the 10th house in the universal chart. A lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot, but some people get confused when I say, the sun is in your 10th house in the sign of Libra, that for you, Libra is your 10th house. But in the universal chart, Capricorn rules that house. So, that is the template. And those influences will affect everyone, no matter what sign or signs are ruling that house, that are in that house. Sometimes you can have more than one sign in a particular house. But the thing with this that's going on is that the sun in the 10th house can make you feel almost like yourself, in the sense that the sun, it's almost like the sun being in Capricorn. And this is obviously energy that is what you're made out of, what you resonate with. So you're going to, even though we are in the sign of Libra, it's like we are in your solar return period when the sun is in Capricorn, because the sun is going to function in that 10th house in a very similar way. I hope that makes sense. And you're taking pride in your accomplishments. On the 3rd, Mercury goes into Scorpio, so Mercury has been in that 10th house. You might even have been back and forth with somebody that has the ability to kind of make things happen for you. In other words, your superiors or somebody else who's in a position of authority. You might be kind of negotiating something, who knows. But now Mercury has left that 10th house and is in the 11th house of hopes and wishes. And so a lot of energy is going to be in the 11th house, and that can be the house of your wildest dreams. It can be the house of friendships and group associations. So you might be more social than you normally are, Capricorn. But in some cases, there might be a work connection. I wouldn't just assume everybody's just doing it for the sake of socializing. You might have in your mind that you're trying to create some kind of a network, or you're simply doing it for your work, that there is some kind of like socializing components, in this time frame that you have to kind of, you have to schmooze people maybe, who knows. And, obviously, Capricorns have friendships and things like that, so it's not to say that you're just all business and no pleasure, but for sure, you do tend to be serious types of people. So I could see, like the average Capricorn, looking at the people that they know as potential sources of I was going to say sources of revenue. No, but connections, making connections is something that is, anything to sneeze at. It's just part of life. And if you're confident, if you have your own business, you're confident about what you do, and you think that you can help other people, there's no shame in that game. And if you are like, let's say you're a corporate type of person, maybe this is baked into the job description. You have to do it. And right now it might just be a particular push, or you're a salesperson. You were, I guess corporate, I don't know. I haven't worked in those fields, but I would think that in the corporate life, you have to be a salesperson too. But if you're like somebody who is a sales rep, maybe this is your busiest period, the fourth quarter. I don't know, towards the end of the year. So, this is, on October 3rd, and on the same day, Pluto goes direct. Now, this is very significant for you, Capricorn, because Pluto has been in your sign for 11 years. Nothing too major, right? And so back in 2008, January to be exact, when Pluto went into Capricorn, that was the beginning of a journey. Now, hopefully, I don't have people that are so young that were not born when it started. Not that would be so terrible, but I'm assuming that most of the people are going to be 18 or over, and especially if you're somebody who is in your 30s and beyond, this was a period of time when you were coming into your independence, when you were turning 18, for instance. Maybe you're in your late 20s now, or older, obviously. But if you're if you are currently in your, let's say, late 20s, maybe you're having your first Saturn return, and you also have Pluto in Capricorn during all of your 20s. And how has that been? This is a once-in-a-lifetime transit, okay? We don't live typically to be 180 years old, or however. What's 15 times 12? That's what I'm talking about 180 or so. We don't live that long. So you can't have a recurrence of Pluto in your own sign. If you have it in this lifetime, then it's here for a reason. And yes, Pluto is Pluto don't play, but it's also going to make you better. What I was thinking of that phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Well, I've never taken much comfort in that. Well, maybe sometimes when I've endured really challenging things, but it sounds kind of dark to me, that phrase. But that's kind of what Pluto is that sometimes it can remove everything from your life so that you're forced to deal with, what lies beneath. And while Pluto has been retrograde in your sign, Capricorn, you may have faced some unpleasant truths. Or if you are still in kind of the escape mode, you may have tried to avoid them. Not everybody faces their shadow, even when it's presented to them. And this is a wasted opportunity if a person doesn't kind of stare their dark side head on, the parts of them that they are, or their trauma can be too, head on, because the parts of you that you're ashamed of, that you disavow, that you might not even really admit exist inside of you, those things, once you make friends with them and love them, you can love yourself into wholeness. You can't be whole if you have fragments. And that's the rub in life, is that a lot of times people are fragmented. And I don't know how many of you know about Teal Swan, but she's great about the shadow. I really respect her on that, because I totally resonate. And she was talking about spiritual leaders. I think somebody brought up this question: why are there so many spiritual leaders caught up in scandals? And she was saying how, how spiritual leaders, they're always like with this fake, voice of elevated spirituality, where they talk very quietly, and they seem to be so serene and above it all. And yet then you find out that they're having some kind of sex scandal. And this isn't just isolated examples. And I'm talking about even in the yoga community and those, in that kind of area, this happens. And it's unfortunate because it creates a lot of disillusionment in the followers, and the people that come there for guidance. And it can make somebody cynical and think that everybody's corrupt. So for you, Capricorn, I want you to reflect upon that. What Teal said is that these people are so ashamed of this aspect of themselves that they try to starve it out by not even acknowledging it, by, repressing it. And when you repress something, it never is going away. It's just kind of operating unaware. And that's where it gets dangerous, because projection is common. And when I see people now and they are projecting, I see that the shadow that has taken over, that does not acknowledge that they are doing what they're accusing other people of doing. And I really believe that they don't know it. They're not just doing it as a defense mechanism, but that they really know that they're doing that. I think sometimes they're so divorced from themselves that they can't figure that out. So I want you to kind of reflect on the last, 5 months. I keep doing these readings, and I didn't look to see when Pluto went retrograde, and it's like, oh, whatever. I'm going to look right now just to see if I can find it. Oh, well, isn't that special? So it went retrograde in April. Well, that explains a lot for me, because that is so interesting. April, okay, that is so wonderful to hear, because I can't wait for this Pluto to go direct. Even though Pluto isn't a personal planet, the house it inhabits, it can really influence the affairs of that house, as opposed to the actual influence directly to a person. You know what though? I don't see why not. I don't see why it couldn't influence us, even in terms of aspects, because we have our natal aspects possibly to Pluto as well, and those are considered influences. So why not the transits? In April, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto all went retrograde. So I'm just thinking about my own life, and I'm not a Capricorn, but how, thinking about that time frame, and May for me, beginning in May, just not good, and things are turning around now. So Saturn went direct in September. I'm recording this in September, so I'm speaking about the Pluto going direct because it's coming up. And of course, Jupiter went direct in August. So if you noticed funky stuff happening for you, Capricorn, sometime back in April or May, and maybe the caca hit the fan in May, because maybe it took a little bit of time. It was stationed retrograde and it was just kind of frozen there. And then it just you felt like a lot of crap went down over the summer, or, the last several months, last 6 months to be exact, then, or 5. Now you may have an understanding of why. Now, while this is happening and Saturn being retrograde as well, you may have felt frustrated with your ambitions and just your life in general, because this is all first house for you. So it may have felt like there was something that was, you might have even felt an assault against your name, your reputation. Usually that's associated with the 10th house, but because you rule the 10th house and because this is happening in the first, I could see it happening there as well, where you may have felt like, if you weren't being downright slandered, that people were getting the wrong impression about you, or you were finding out what people really thought of you. And that hurt, and that was not pleasant. But see, this is the thing. When we find out these things, we also can make adjustments, because sometimes there is a grain of truth in it that we have to face, that we need to know. And it's not like we're all perfect and everybody is just picking on us. That kind of framework or that type of mentality can lead to victimhood. And when you're in the mode of victim, you're not in the mode of trying to improve your life. That's why being a victim is so problematic. It's not just because oh, suck it up, buttercup. It's really that it doesn't allow you to make those adjustments. Okay, so now that Pluto's direct, I think that your personal power can be harnessed big time. Because now, when a planet goes retrograde, it's more of an interior kind of a thing. And now we can look at it as something much more, you projecting what you want and your desires onto the world. And also with Saturn being direct at this time. And, the other thing, too, is that the South Node is in this house. You had a lunar eclipse that I believe the South Node was connected to. And this was in July. And that may have been kind of very emotional, revealing to you your own patterns that must go, that don't serve you. Whether you've really let go of some things, I don't know, but at least you probably have a better understanding of how you are holding yourself back. Hopefully that's the case. So, on the 4th, Mars goes into Libra, your 10th house of career. That can make you very motivated to advance career-wise. And of course, we're coming on the heels of the new moon in that 10th. So, new beginnings with career. And so it's that, this is very powerful. All these early transits, because they're all speaking to your personal transformation, but also in the world, how you're doing it. So it's like moving forward. And I can't fail to see that you have Pluto going direct the day before in the 1st, and then you have Mars in the 10th. It's almost like, to me, having this karma be dissolved. Pluto is a karmic influence, and the South Node is right there in that 1st house as well. So perhaps there is this sense of, not that I don't have my ephemeris, let me see. I don't think it's going to be in conjunction, because I think the South Node is pretty, at this time, the South Node. Oh, maybe. I'm not sure, like, it'll be at 13 degrees of Capricorn. And Pluto goes direct at 20. So we're talking about a 7-degree orb. I'm not sure how that works. Usually the orbs, the distance between two of these entities is pretty close. But because Pluto's an outer planet, maybe it's a wider orb. I'm not sure. In any case, I would just say, that they would operate together, and that could release this karma very effortlessly, but really not, because you've been dealing with a lot of stuff the last several months. But you're ready to just kind of like really do a lot career-wise. You're just very ambitious. The only thing that you have to look at is tangling with authority figures. You may be, if somehow somebody was responsible for, kind of sullying your name in your career, and they happen to be somebody who holds a position of power, you might be like, I'm not going to allow this. And in some cases, it may be exactly what you need to do, but it could create enemies, so you have to be careful. But you may be pissed off at somebody too, and you're not like going to play nice anymore. It all depends on what's going on in your life otherwise. But very good for career advancement. On the 8th, we have Venus going into Scorpio. So that forms a sextile with your sun. And this is the 11th house of hopes and wishes and friendships. Very good for people who are trying to, schmooze people, because you come across to groups of people in a very favorable way, in a very gracious way. And it can also mean that you find love with your group of friends or in an organization that you belong to. It can be money that you receive from friends. If you do have your own business and you're marketing to your friends, first and foremost, because that's the network that you already have established. Maybe your friends spread the word, and you're just getting business from friends of friends. And it's just really great for your pocketbook. On the, I just thought of something. When I said pocketbook, I thought, gosh, does anybody even say that anymore? On the 13th, we have a full moon in Aries. There again, more cardinal energy. The sun will be opposing this at the 20 degree mark. So this is at 20 degrees of Aries. Aries is a cardinal sign, so it squares you. It's your 4th house, home and family. This can bring something to light, something about your childhood. Again, this might be a deep month for you, where it's not just about your career doing well, but it's also about you. I think about you wanting to go after your dreams. I will get to that in a second, but I think, like, for some Capricorns, you have always been so driven. You've always been so dedicated and wanting to advance in life. And yet, Capricorn is the last earth sign. It's a winter sign. So it's associated with the wisdom of the accumulation of all of the earth signs. That's the wisdom that has been accumulated, being the last earth sign. And so there's always this guru type of vibe that comes from Capricorns, even the ones that you would associate with being the most, workaholic, business-oriented or career-oriented. there's like a mentor vibe. People tend to trust Capricorns as being very solid, wise, and serious. And, so having said that, that might make you feel like there's more to life than whatever it is that you're doing. And this may kind of reveal exactly what happened along the way that made you maybe put all your eggs into one basket and say, I want to be successful in a career sense. But then there were other things that you wanted to do. And you realize that. I mean, for some adults, this could be that you've always wanted children, but maybe you're staring at 40 and you're like, oh my gosh. Well, if there was anyone that was going to have kids late, it would be a Capricorn, I would think, because not only because you're very dedicated to career, but you're the sign ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is about delays and old age, So, not that being 40 is old age, elderly, but, for having children, it's not being a spring chicken, that's for sure. But that might be something that this full moon brings out, that you've always wanted children, that you've always, and maybe you're selling a house. I mean, it could be that mundane, and it goes through. Full moons brings things to a climax, a culmination. Learning something about your mother, whether it's hearing news about her or realizing something spiritually, psychologically, intuitively about how she affected you, how, how you were raised. Look to your, moon sign also to see like how, about your relationship with your mother, that the qualities of that moon sign that you have in your natal chart can definitely affect that as well. And I would even say the place where the moon is located too. Look to what house it is. And okay, and then on the 23rd, the sun goes into Scorpio, and so there's that 11th house again. And yeah, so what I'm saying about the hopes and wishes, I'll just tell you about a couple of other things that are happening along these same lines. A new moon in Scorpio, either the 27th or the 28th. If you live in North America, 27th, and the rest probably 28th. Well, I mean, maybe the Pacific Rim, you might be the 27th too. I don't know the time zones in those areas. But anyway, the new moon in the 11th house, giving birth to new hopes and wishes, and just in general, there may be this sense of you developing more of a hopeful attitude in terms of realizing these dreams. Mercury retrograde goes there on Halloween at 27 Scorpio. So you're reworking things. It's not solid necessarily, but it's coming into your consciousness. Now, why I think this is significant, because, you have the sun going into Scorpio every year, Mercury, yada, yada. All these things happen every year. These are personal planets. They're fast moving, and they're pretty close to the sun. So usually, Mars sometimes is farther apart. But anyway, the point is that you may come to understand that there's more to life than your career, and that you have other dreams. And maybe you didn't even dare to dream because you felt like you should just do this or that, something in your life that you felt you should just deal with and do for the sake of being practical, pragmatic, responsible. There is a saying that as Capricorns grow older, they grow younger. Okay, it's like Saturn has that reverse effect on them. And this can mean that you become more willing to take chances, to stop being so conformist, not because you're just mindless. That's not why you conform. It's because you respect tradition. You don't think that because something has been established that it needs to be destroyed. But you may start to get a little radical here as you get older. And you may be like, I want to have more freedom. I want to be more kind of adventurous, or just not have the predictable life. And just that sense of wanting to have something that is more exciting and less like routine. The 11th house is Aquarius's house. So when the sun goes there, you have a new moon there, it's like you're channeling an Aquarian. And what would an Aquarian do? WWAD. Okay. And something like that. So this can be, I heard an astrologer, I don't know if she coined this, Jane Spiller, she said the 11th house is the luckiest house. I'm sure she got that from another astrologer, but she had that thing about doing hopes and wishes, your 40 wishes for when you have these transits in the 11th house, and especially if you have a new moon there, you set intentions. So that could be a really great planting of seeds for future dreams to come about. But like I said, it's a work in progress because Mercury's going retrograde here. Watch out for any kind of misunderstandings with friends. And if, understand that if you do have some kind of a misunderstanding with friends, or if you belong to a group and you kind of like are not syncing up with them for some reason. And this could be, like I said before, due to work, that this is just a temporary delay and things will right themselves eventually. Okay, Capricorn, I don't know why this month I've been doing really long readings, not necessarily intending to, but since I've done them for the other signs, I guess I feel compelled to kind of match it. But 32 minutes, really? Okay. Anyway, if you're still with me, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great month. If you'd like a personal reading, please click on the link below. Take care. Bye.